we are doing, no, go away, Harley. No, go away. Go away. Hello everyone, so today we have a super exciting video. Well, I'm super excited for it. We are doing the mid-year book tag or mid-year check-in, whatever you want to call it, because I have absolutely impressed myself with how much I've read this year so far, so I really wanted to do this so I could reflect back on it at the end of the year. So without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's get into the video. I have questions that I've gotten from other YouTubers' videos, as well as like some just online, but I don't know who originally started this video, but it's something that everyone does. So credit goes out to everyone that does stuff on BookTube and has done this tag before. First of all, the first thing that I wanted to quickly go through, because the first question on here is how many books have I read this year, and I have, like I said, exceeded my expectations, and Fable has like statistics for you for the year. I think that this might be like one book out, but this says I've read 43 books this year. However, the only one that's not, yeah, it's 44 because I have DNF'd one book and Fable doesn't include that, whereas to me it's still a book that I read even though I DNF'd it. So I read 44 books this year out of 52 because that's my goal. And the genres, the way it's broken down my genres is I've read 25 romance books, 17 fantasy books, 10 young adult books, 2 fiction books, and 2 sports books. And it says my average rating is 4 stars so far, which is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think that this is fully accurate because I didn't put all of my ratings in. So what I'll do is after this video, I will fill all this in and actually put like a screenshot of my ratings in there. And then my most read authors is very like similar. I've read 3 books by Danielle Laurie, 3 books by Rebecca Yarros, 3 books by Sarah J Maas, and 3 books by Stephanie Garber. So I've got 4 top authors there so far. Like I said, I've got these questions here. I've got them on my tablet. Now, one of the biggest things that I want to say is a couple of these questions, it was really hard to differentiate them because I'm going to use a certain book for other ones, like other questions. So just keep that in mind with certain things, because for example, like there's a question that says a new release that met your expectations, but it's also like probably my favorite book of the year so far, but I couldn't I didn't want to do it twice. So I have put like a different one in for that because as well, like I didn't want to repeat books. I want to be able to give you guys some recommendations. So let me actually turn off this light. So the first question is best book you've read so far this year. Now this is the one that I was talking about where I was like, the best book I've actually read so far this year is actually the same as my anticipated book that met my expectations, but I didn't want to repeat them. So I've done this one because this wasn't released this year, but I really loved it. It's The Darkest Temptation by Danielle Laurie. I am obsessed with this book specifically in this series. I think this book was a 5-star for me. I absolutely loved it. It's the 3rd book in the Maid series. So in this one you have Mila and Ronan. Mila is the daughter of a bravada boss, and I think she lives in Miami. They live in Miami, but she knows that she is Russian and that her heritage is from Russia, and she wants to know about it. So she decides that because her dad is not around, that she's going to sneak away and get on a flight and go to Moscow, Russia. And she gets to Russia and some very odd things start happening to her, and she literally runs straight into the arms of Ronan. And I'm not going to tell you anything else from there. The only things I'm going to tell you is this has age gap, it has the captive/captor, it has slow burn. Well, not really. It's kind of slow burny, but kind of not. It's also got like a forbidden element to it as well. So yeah, I really, really love this book. Highly recommend it. I rated it, like I said, I rated it 5 stars. I read this like 2 months ago, I think. 2 months ago. And I still think about this book quite a lot. Also, if you guys do notice that I have changed my filming setup, I have a new video coming on that very, very soon. I was running out of room on this bookshelf, so I now have a certain system to it. So you guys will see that in an upcoming video, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. The next one is worst book you've read so far this year. Now I have two for this because I've had my first ever DNF this year, and to me that obviously is quite telling that, you know, I really, really didn't enjoy that book. I'm not saying that this book isn't for everyone. Like, I know people that absolutely love this book and this duology, but I just couldn't get past the, I think like 30% mark, I believe. I think I got to like page 112 and I had to put it down. I could not stand it. And then I do have one that I also finished that I just wasn't the biggest fan of. So I'm going to tell you my DNF first, and it was Bones Deep by Ivy Graves. Now I hate the fact that I hated this book as much as I did because I love her writing. There's a book that she wrote that I beta read for her and I'm obsessed with it. I want to buy the physical so I can put it on my shelf because I loved it. It's called Her Muse by Ivy Graves. Loved it. I rated that book like a 4-star. Loved it. Loved everything about it. Thought it was really great. And the writing, it was just the writing style in Bones Deep that I couldn't deal with, and the way the story moved. There was a particular thing that happened and I couldn't with it. It was, the protagonists were getting spicy, but they'd only had like 3 ever interactions before that, and I couldn't. I was like, no, like this is too much. You've not had enough interaction yet. And I wasn't vibing with either one of the characters, and I also wasn't vibing with the characters together. So it just made it really hard to get through. I was like, no, I can't do this. And I tried to read this book quite a few times and really struggled. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to DNF it. And I'm so sorry, Ivy, if you see this. I loved Her Muse, but I just couldn't get behind Bones Deep. So, but like I said, it doesn't mean that this book is not a good book. It was just something that I couldn't get behind personally for me and what I enjoyed to read. The other book that is the worst book I've read this year was How Does It Feel by Janine O'Reilly. If you saw my June reading wrap up, you would have seen my thoughts on this. This is the first book in the Infatuated Fae series. This whole book was so slow and so hard to keep track of. Mind you, I did rate it like a 2.75, I think is what I rated this book. I am intrigued to continue the series, or like at least continue on to the next book, because I do have the physical on my TBR shelf, but I want to know where it goes from there, just because of the way this ended. It's not what you expected. It's not where the story was going, and it was quite the big plot twist. So I am curious to know what happens in the next book. If I dislike the next book as much as this, then I'm like gonna DNF the series. Then I'll probably end up decluttering the series from my shelves. Next up, we have best sequel you've read so far this year. Now, I just went like the next book in the series that I read that I enjoyed a lot. I think I rated this book at like a 4.75, maybe I've rated it a 4.75 just because of one scene in it, but I really loved it. It's the second book in the Maple Hill series, which was Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I loved this book. When I picked this book out for my June TBR, I didn't realize that Russ was actually a character that we knew quite well from Icebreaker, but I was so happy that I went into it not realizing that that was the character, because I think it wouldn't have met my expectations because of how much I loved the character in Icebreaker. So this follows Russ and Aurora. They meet at a college party at Russ's college house, and they play a game of Jenga, which has a dare, a forfeit, a dare and a forfeit on the Jenga block. So if you don't want to do the dare, then you have to do the forfeit. If you don't want to do either of those, you've got to take 2 shots, unless you are a non-muscled hockey player, then you only have to do 1 shot. Aurora pulls a block that says give a lap dance to your nearest hockey player, which is Russ, and things get spicy during that lap dance, and then they end up back in his room. They get it on, things happen, and she runs off before he can even know her full name. He only knows this, like, her first name. And the next day they show up to summer camp as camp counselors, and fraternization is completely forbidden. And yeah, the story goes from there. It's super, super interesting. I loved this book. It had me cackling, it had me giggling, kicking my feet. I loved the romance and the love story between them. I also love the epilogue in this. It takes place like 9 years later, and it's not your standard epilogue that you expect. I really, really loved this book. I can't recommend it enough. I ended up annotating it quite a bit. I wasn't expecting to annotate it, but I ended up annotating it because I was reading it and I was like, no, I really like this book. I need to go get some annotations. So I ended up annotating it. But yeah, the next question is worst sequel you've read so far this year. Now, this book wasn't necessarily bad. I I just don't think that this particular story was necessary to the whole story. So Bookbest is gonna hate me for this, which is so funny, but it's Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. This is a novella in the series. You're supposed to read it between The Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Now, I stopped myself from reading The Songbird and The Heart of Stone because I hadn't read this book yet. And I'm really upset with myself that I did that because I don't think that this was super important to the story. I do have annotations in there, but I didn't end up annotating anything as I was listening to it because it was the only way I could get through this book. So not that this is bad. It's still a beautiful story, but I just don't think it was conducive to the overall story of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So that's why I've put this in as the worst sequel I've read this year. Now, I'm not going to tell you what this book's about because I don't want to ruin it for you if you haven't read the series. If you haven't read the series yet, this would be okay if you read it in order. So if you read book 1, book 1.5, book 2, I think it would be okay. But I had read the first 2 books and then I went back and read this one because I didn't know that this was available. So that's why for me, personally, it was the worst sequel that I've read this year. This is the book that I was saying that is actually my favorite book of the year, but I wanted to put it in for this particular prompt. So the question is a new release that met your expectations, and it's Onyx Storm. I knew that this was going to pop off. I was so excited for this book. I knew we were going to get answers, but also be left with more questions. However, I've done a reread of this, so I've read it twice already this year, and I'm obsessed. All the orange tabs are all the little bits of information that I picked out on the reread, and I think we actually have way more answers than what we all thought, and I don't think much is going to come as a huge surprise in the next book for certain things. But this book absolutely met my expectations, if not exceeded my expectations. Every book in this series has been 5 stars so far, but this is my favorite just because we got so much more insight to other characters and their relationships with Violet and their relationships with Xaden, and we also got more of a insight to other characters and the relationship they have with their dragons, which was awesome to see. I absolutely loved that. If you've read this book, you know that at the back of the book we're swapping POVs quite a lot, which was super important to this story because there was so much happening in the last 100 pages that we needed different POVs from different people to know what was happening. I'm not going to tell you why, but it was just super important. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you anything about this book because it is the 3rd book in the series, but if you haven't read this series yet, definitely go and read it. It's so good, and I'm absolutely obsessed with this book. I love it so much. Okay, and then moving on, we have a new release that didn't meet your expectations. Now, I didn't dislike this book, but it definitely didn't hit the way I was expecting it to hit, and that's Fearless by Lauren Roberts. If you have seen I think it's my April reading wrap up, I kind of went in depth with spoilers as to why I didn't like this book. I still feel the same way. I have spoken to another friend that's just finished this book. She rated it a 1 star. I wasn't that harsh. I think I rated this like a 4 star or something, but I think the book was still good. I just did not like what happened to a particular character and where we went with the story. I think that it could have been handled so much better. I think we could have gone about it in a different way, and like I said, I just don't like where we went with a particular character to wrap up the story and so that these, like, the main protagonists could have their happily ever after. That really bothered me, and it still bothers me to this day. Thinking about it and talking to other people about it, it's still something that bothers me. So yeah, this was a new release that didn't meet my expectations because I was expecting it to be a lot different than what it was. The next question is a new release from this year that you haven't read yet but want to. If you guys saw my July TBR video, you know what book it is. Well, you should do. But it is Broken Hearted by Leah Stone and Julie Hall. This is book 3 in the Cursed Fae series. I'm so excited to read this book. I completely forgot about it when it got released earlier this year, just because there was so much going on and so many new releases. I completely forgot about it. I picked it up last month and put it on the TBR for this month, and I'm super excited to read it. Like, super. It's inexplicable how excited I am to read this book. I can't tell you what this book specifically is about. Like, I can't read you the back. However, the series itself is, you have 2 Fae realms. They are essentially like mirror realms of each other. They just call different spots, different courts or different sections, different names. So in the Fae realm, you have Summer Court. I think you have Summer Court, Spring Court, Winter Court, and Autumn Court, I believe, which was something that I didn't like because it felt very reminiscent of ACOTAR. However, the actual storyline and the plot of this is very different to ACOTAR. And then in the Mirror Realm, which is Ethereum, that's where like you have all of the Fae, like Unseelie Fae, Seelie Fae, like you have all of it in Ethereum. And I think they have it as north, south, east, and west something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Yeah, so you have Norium, the Midlands, Easteria, Winderham, Solum, and South Islands. So they're more based on like north, south, east, and west. So yeah, I am super excited to read this book. It's on the TBR for this month, and I'm super, super excited to read this book. Now, the next question is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I know we just spoke about this series, but it is the final book in this series. So it's called Black Hearted by Leah Stone and Julie Hall, which is the fourth and final book in the Cursed Fae series. And I'm so excited to see how it wraps up. I know I haven't read that book yet, but like I said, the plot line in this story is very different to ACOTAR, and I'm curious to see how we're going to get to the resolution and all that sort of stuff. So that's the book that I'm most excited for the release for the second half of the year. I think it comes out on the 9th of October. I'll put it on the screen anyway. So, okay, the next question is the biggest surprise of the year. So a book that I read that surprised me and how much I enjoyed it is how I took that question. And the book I have for that is Enter Chameleon by A Double. This is a book that was gifted to me by Ivy Graves. She had a lot of books from a lot of her friends who are authors. I loved this book. I cannot wait to read the second book in this series. It's called I Am Chameleon. But this is really good. It's a dark romance. You have an age gap. You have like a runaway. You have like forbidden because it's a workplace romance. Essentially in this story you have Jack and Megan. Megan is originally from Brisbane, Australia, and something happens to her biological father and her mother remarries, and the man that her mother remarried to is not a nice person, and Megan decides to flee in the middle of the night, and she ends up in Scotland. And she's there for a few years, and then she's like, I need to get a job. So her friend who works at Chameleon, which is a spicy club, she's sort of like the madame. She is like the club mum, you would call it. So she manages all the girls, and she gets her an interview at Chameleon. And when Megan goes in for her interview, Jack thinks that she's there as a working girl and tells her to strip everything off, turn around, bend over, and spread the behind so he can get a good view. And Megan is like, excuse me, I'm not a working girl, the hell you mean? And the story kind of goes from there. And I was super, super pleased with this book, very impressed. Was not what I was expecting from an indie author. Like I said, I really, 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 really enjoyed this book, and I highly recommend it. So this was the biggest surprise of the year so far. Next we have favorite new author. Now, I have only read one book by this author so far this year, but I have two of her books on my TBR that I'm super excited to read, especially one of them. One of them I'm more excited to read than the other, but it is Anna Downs. I read Red River Road by her this year and absolutely loved it. It was one of the best, I think that was what Fable put in as a fictional book, but it's a mystery thriller kind of book, and it's very mysterious. You have unreliable narrator vibes. You have like a solo female traveler in that book, and just the way that she did this book, I listened to it and read it. So I kind of listened to part of it and then would read part of it and then listen to part of it and then read part of it. It was just the way that this author put the story together was amazing. You had 3 POVs and you didn't understand until the very end why this third POV was involved, and when it all came together in the plot twist at the end, it was not what I was expecting at all. I was absolutely gobsmacked by it, and I just think it was so good, and that's why I'm super excited to read more of her stuff this year. It also is pushing me out of my general comfort genres. So yeah, Anna Downs is probably my new favorite author this year, even though I haven't read a lot of her books. Like, as you guys heard at the start, I've read 3 books from Sarah J. Maas, 3 books from Rebecca Yarros, 3 books from Stephanie Garber, and 3 books from Danielle Laurie. Now, the Stephanie Garber is new to me this year, but I only enjoyed the first book. I did not enjoy the 2 books in the Caraval series. Rebecca Yarros is not a new author for me. I obviously read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame last year, so not a new author for me. Same with Danielle Laurie. I read the first 2 books in the Maid series last year and read the 3rd one this year. that's the reason why I picked Anna Downs, because I'm very eager to continue reading more of her stuff this year. Okay, now we have newest fictional crush. Now again, I was trying not to repeat too many because there's so many that I am obsessed with, but the one that came to mind that wouldn't be a repeat was Zane from Her Soul for Revenge. I just think that Zane is a funny character. I think the way he treats Juniper is he doesn't wrap her in cotton wool, but he also looks after her, but he gives her all the hard truths that she needs to hear, and he's very much there to protect her. And when this man falls for her, he falls so hard, and it is so beautiful, and he's really her rock in every situation, and I just loved seeing that. It was really beautiful to read and to see where their story developed and how both the characters developed. But I just really loved Zane in this book. So he is my fictional crush, my new fictional crush from this year so far. Okay, and this is the only one where I'm going to repeat. And that is because this book, I'd already said that we got an insight into so many more characters, and this character is a side character, but this character just became so much more lovable to me. I did love this character in the previous books, but in this book it was just elevated to a new level. We got to see so much more of this character in this book, and the relationship between him and the protagonist, and him and his dragon. And if that didn't give it away, it was Riddick from Onyx Storm. I absolutely love Riddick in Onyx Storm. I think he's the humor that you need in such a heavy story. But also there's a line in this where he says, I really hate that no one takes me serious because I'm the class clown. I'm just as smart and just as strong as all of you as well. And the way he shows up for Violet in this book, so my new favorite character is Riddick. I love him. I think about Riddick all the time. I swear to God, if Riddick does not make it in book 4, I'm going to absolutely lose my shit, and Rebecca and I are going to have some very serious words. But I really, really, really loved Riddick in this book, and I'm so excited to see where his character development goes in the next book, because he is definitely one of the stronger characters in this book, and I'm just, yeah, like I said, I'm super excited to see where he goes and where he fits into the story in the next 2 books. So my newest favorite character is Riddick from Onyx Storm. 100% love him. Next up we have a book that made you cry. Okay, the book that I have for a book that made you cry was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Everyone says that their favorite book in this series is Akamath. I'm sorry, this one beats that for me. Upon reflection, I actually think Akamath I would probably rate like a 4.75 star. This is a 5-star book in the series for me. The reason why this made me cry is because I just think that the character development in this book, I'm not going to tell you specifically with who because I don't want to spoil it for you, but the character development in this book I just think is amazing and really beautiful to see. And it's beautiful to see this person want to become strong of their own accord and be able to save themselves and not rely on other people, even though that they've done that for so much of their life. I just think it's really beautiful to see. And then the other character in this book that you have really great character development, I think that their character development is also really amazing, and seeing them become more supportive rather than maybe like controlling or trying to get at their own gains. That I just really love this book, and that I cried multiple times during this book, and the ending just absolutely ruined me in this book. And yeah, I really, really love this book, and I definitely think that this was the book that made me cry probably the hardest, other than Onyx Storm. Onyx Storm had me crying multiple times through it, but like I said, I didn't want to repeat books, so this was definitely the book that I think made me cry the hardest and the most, other than Onyx Storm. The next question we have is a book that made you happy. Now, the book I have for that is Rival Darling by Alexandra Moody, and it's for multiple reasons. 1, I was not expecting to like this as much as I did. 2, I really, really loved the love story between the two and the character development between the two, and also just the overall story that we followed. I know that ice hockey gets very repetitive, but I really did love this ice hockey story specifically. This is completely YA. There is no spice in it whatsoever. There's obviously tension, but there's no spice in it. And it's actually set in high school. It is like the main characters in this are like 17 and 18, and it is set in high school. Like, we have scenes of them being in the cafeteria at lunchtime, and I really enjoyed this as a 27-year-old adult, or 26, almost 27. as a 26-year-old adult, I ate this book up and I loved it, and I rated it 5 stars. So in this book you have Violet and Reed. Violet and Reed go to 2 rival schools, and Violet was dating the captain of the ice hockey team at, I don't know what her school's called, I can't remember. But yeah, Violet was dating the captain of the ice hockey team at her school, and she's left heartbroken, and in a way to get back at her ex, she decides that fake dating Reed, which is the captain of the ice hockey team at the rival school, is the best way to do that. So the story goes from there. The way that they ended up in this situation was hilarious and absolutely made me crack up. So I always say that I really hate the miscommunication trope. However, this book did the miscommunication trope right. It was littered through the entire book. It wasn't just thrown in at the end for third act conflict. It was littered through the whole book. So when the third act conflict came up and miscommunication was involved, it made it so much easier to deal with, because you're like, okay, these 2 are 17 and 18 and they're useless at communicating. They always have been, they still are, and all that. Also, something that I absolutely loved in this book was the way he showed that she was the one for him. It was really, really sweet and beautiful and just cracked me up. I absolutely loved it. So yeah. Anyway, Rival Darling was a book that made me happy. The next question we have is the most beautiful book you've gotten this year. Now, I'm going to give you 2 just because I think that special editions are obviously always beautiful, but I also really love the standard edition of a particular book. So I'm going to show you 2. So the first one is A Crown So Silver by Lyra Celine. I love this cover. I'm obsessed with the cover of the first book of this series as well. That was actually what drew me to this series in the first place, was the stunning cover of the first book. So, and I think that this one is just as beautiful. This is the second book in the Fairfolk trilogy, and I obviously can't tell you what this book is about, but I just absolutely love this cover. I haven't finished the book yet, but I do love the cover of this book. So, and then the other one is maybe more of a series, and you can see behind me. I don't want to hold them up because I don't want to spoil anything. Let's just do Powerless, because I feel like most people have read Powerless at this point. So I bought these this year, and it's Powerless by Lauren Roberts. These have the most beautiful hardbacks as well as the most beautiful reversible dust jackets. So if I open this up, also the end, like the maps, the end papers are beautiful. They're purple instead of like the standard. But as you can see, you've got the reversible dust jacket. I'm not going to show you this because I don't want to spoil anything in the book for anyone that hasn't read it. Oh, well, it's opening anyway. So yeah, reversible dust jacket, that's how it comes. I flipped mine because as if I wouldn't want this beautiful art on display. And then the hardcover itself, like the plain hardcover, is absolutely stunning. I really, really want to get like other hardcover books that are the same size as this so I can put both on display because they're just so beautiful. So I wanted to give you both options because I feel like special editions are obviously always stunning, but sometimes people can't afford stunning special editions. Like, these aren't expensive by any means, but they're also not cheap. Like, they were $39 each, and I have 3 of them, and I've pre-ordered the 4th one. So take that as you will. Okay, so the next question we have is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Now, I've got 5 here for you in no particular order. Well, however, 2 of them are on the TBR for this month. But anyway, in no particular order of like which ones I really want to read first, we have Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This has obviously been a TikTok sensation for quite a few months. It came out last year and I still have not read it yet, but I'm super excited to. So this is definitely very high up on the priority list of like 2 reads for this year. We also have First Time Caller by BK Borison. I've heard nothing but good things on this. It's also like just such a stunning cover, like absolutely obsessed with this. So yeah, very excited to read this year as well. I haven't gotten to it yet, but definitely want to read this as well. Now, this is a new book that I got from Coomera Rotary Book Fair. It's called Ritual by Mo Hader. This sounded super interesting when I read the blurb in, I just realized it's got some mold on it, which is super sad. But anyway, it sounded super interesting. This is a thriller. It's like a mystery thriller book, and I'm super, super excited to read this. It sounded super interesting when I read the back there, and yeah, so Ritual by Mo Hader, I think is how you say their name. And then I have a huge sensation on TikTok and YouTube. The first book in the Boys of Tommen, realistically actually the entire series. Binding 13 obviously is the first book in that series, and this is actually also on the TBR for this month. I'm super excited to read this. Even though it's a chunker, I think I'm going to end up paying for it on my Kindle, which is totally fine. But yeah, Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, that's also a book that I really want to get to this year. And then another one that's on the TBR this month is The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent. It's the third book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, first book in the second duet of that series. And again, super excited to read this. I have started reading it, because again, it's on the TBR for this month, and I'm super excited to read it. I have started it and it seems super interesting so far. I think I'm like 17 pages into it at the moment, and it is really good. It is really good, and again, I'm super excited to continue this series and continue this book. And the final question we have for today's video is top 5 books of the year so far. Now, this is in no particular order. They're just the books that I still think about constantly, or I want to continue on with the series and all that sort of stuff, and a couple of them are repeats from today, so apologies for that. But the first one we have is Praise by Sarah Kate. I'm super excited to continue on with this series. I think I have the next one. Do I have the next one? No, I don't have the next one, but I do have a book in a different series she started. So this is the first book in the Salacious Players Club. Absolutely loved this book when I read it. It's very taboo. It's ex-boyfriend's dad, and I had no idea going into it that it was that, but I loved this book so much. It was one of the first books I read this year, and I still think about it almost every week. So really love this book and cannot wait to continue on with the series. Next we have Wildfire by Hannah Grace. Again, this is just a book that really stuck with me. I really loved the story. It was a really beautiful story, and it's just stuck with me, and I keep thinking about it. And I don't know if I'm going to read Daydream just because I've heard so many mixed reviews on it. I've heard people say that they hate it and they hate what happened to Henry. So Wildfire is also in my top 5. And then top 3, which again, this isn't really in any particular order. I'm going to struggle to figure out which book is going to be my top book. Actually, probably the last book I'm going to show you is probably going to be my top book for the end of the year. It wouldn't surprise me if it does remain the top book, but the third book I have is The Darkest Temptation by Danielle Laurie. I explained to you why I love this book so much. It's a dark romance, which I love dark romance as well. Dark romance is what got me into reading. Got me into reading again as an adult. So yeah, this one as well. Love this book. There's a 4th book coming out in the series, which I'm super excited to read. So yeah. And then we have A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. I just explained to you guys why I love this book so much. It really just, again, I think about this book constantly. I think about the ending. The only reason why I haven't read the last book in the series is because I know that it doesn't follow the same people, and I just, like, I want to know what happens to these guys. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Sorry, but I don't care. So yeah, anyway. A Court of Wings and Ruin is definitely one of those books that has stuck with me since I read it. And then we have Onyx Storm. Now, this is probably my favorite book of the year so far. I know that I didn't put that there, but I had to put this in the new release for this year because it was the only new release that met my expectations, so I couldn't put it in the best book of the year. But it will not surprise me if this is my number 1 at the end of the year. I am doing like a book of the year tracker on my reading journal, and every book that's come up against this one so far, this one has won. I can't, like, it's so beautiful. I cannot, like, it's stunning. I love this book so much. So that is the end of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know how you guys are going with your reading goals this year. If you did set yourself a reading goal, and make sure you comment down below, like the video, share the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Yeah, that's it for me today. I'm super excited to be able to look back on this at the end of the year when I do my like yearly reading wrap up and my end of the year book tag. So I'm super excited for that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Mwah.